Welcome back to another Outdoor Philosophy. And today we're going to continue on the book, The Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. So, of course, we are, at the beginning of this, we are on Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is entitled The Competency of the Stars. So, of course, we went through the first part was just talking about a new yardstick by which to measure success and competencies and things in the workplace. And Competency of the Stars moves us to another round where now it's basically just utilizing some examples, looking at a few different frameworks, and kind of outlining the goal here for emotional intelligence and what it is. Again, this is in the introductory section, of which there's 3 chapters in the introductory. And Competency of the Stars is just kind of talking about the fact that intelligence is not the deciding factor of how successful an individual happens to be. And if you've known intelligent people out there, you know that that's probably very accurate, that just because somebody's intelligent does not necessarily mean that they're going to succeed at everything that we do. My apologies if the crickets are loud. I just noticed how loud it is here. I don't know if you can hear that as well or not. Kind of depends on how well the audio is. All right, so they talk about some domains of excellence. So where can people excel? Obviously, intelligence is one of those domains of excellence. They talk about the limits of IQ. You know, you can be as intelligent as they come, and if you have no common sense, ever hear that expression that you're as smart as can be, but you have the common sense of a rock, or you're dumb as a rock? You might hear that expression, and that's a fairly common expression in light of this type of stuff. It outlines that maybe this has been an issue in our society, that just because there is somebody has intelligence does not necessarily mean that they're going to absolutely excel in everything that they do. And so there are limits to IQ. You can be very intelligent if you don't know how to handle yourself. You're not much different than maybe Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. I've only seen a few episodes of that, but if I remember correctly, it's kind of the case. So the second domain they talk about as far as competencies is expertise. This is one that I would place expertise higher than emotional intelligence, but since this is actually a book about emotional intelligence, obviously that's going to trump it. The reason expertise is so much better is expertise can demonstrate, can you actually accomplish this type of work? That is so critically important. Can you accomplish this type of work? If you can't accomplish this type of work, it doesn't matter how emotionally intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how many book smarts you have. Now, that's kind of the balance, though, is that this world generally has bounced traditionally between IQ, how smart are you, how well are you at answering the questions, teaching to the test. That's the biggest thing that we have a problematic portion in our modern society with, teaching to the test, teaching to get answers right. Somebody who can get the answers right isn't necessarily the person who's going to do the best at any given job. You generally would want to look for somebody with the experience, the expertise. This is why a lot of your jobs, even for those college graduates, are like degree and or 5 years of experience. You know, it's that years of experience that helps. If I'm bringing on somebody on board as to sub for a web design course, I don't care what scores they have. I don't even necessarily care how well you are with people. I care that you can accomplish the task that I have placed before you. Expertise, in my opinion, trumps it. But since this is a book about emotional intelligence, obviously they place emotional intelligence as higher. But they do talk about expertise, and yes, they talk about how important the expertise can actually be. And then, of course, the third domain is emotional intelligence. How well can you navigate some trials? And they do have some great examples of people who through their experience have probably gained some of the emotional intelligence needed for this. So they talk about a flight attendant, and everyone was delayed on a Super Bowl Sunday. So, you know, this is like the world's about to end or something. And so she, instead of coming on saying federal regulations require you to have a seat until the plane comes to a complete stop, instead she goes, "You're standing," and everyone laughed and sat down. Those types of examples, that is a good example of emotional intelligence. And that is truly what we want to look for is the ability to make those types of decisions, those types of connections. And yes, if you're hiring a person who is dealing with the public at large, you're hiring a person dealing directly with the public or with customers, you want to have somebody who has good people skills, which can be interpreted as emotional intelligence, but can also be simply experience of dealing with people well. Those types of jobs, you would want somebody who is great at dealing with people. Maybe you might even want them more than somebody who knows how to do the back-end deal, because you might be able to handle the back-end stuff. But if I were to hire somebody to take some of the workload off of my plate, I want to deal with my customers. I don't care if you've got the social skills of a troll. As long as you can get work done and I can navigate within your social skills of being a troll, I'm okay with however you want to behave, as long as you're getting the work done. Because meritocracy is still a real thing. And that is the reality. Now, of course, you can push it way too far. I was actually out not too long ago with my old best friend from way back in the middle school days, and he says that being really good at a job is a different thing from being a good employee. And his boss, when he was early on, I don't know, early 20s maybe, told him about that. And he pulled him aside and said, you're the best worker we have here, but you're a bad employee because you don't know how to interact with all the people. That's probably the part where emotional intelligence will start bringing itself in line. And so keep that in mind. Now, they talk about the Great Divide, which is just some of these examples where emotional intelligence shines. And then they talk about emotional competence, which is essentially an introduction for the rest of the portion of the book. In fact, they bring us a table on pages 26 and 27, which outlines the frameworks for personal and social competence across 5 different groups and categories, which will be detailed in each of the chapters going forward. So in personal competence, do you have self-awareness? Do you know how you feel to the rest of the people around you? Self-regulation, how well do you control your own self? And then motivation, how well are you being motivated? So on my other channel, I did one of my Saturday morning discussion points on this whole discussion of there's a whole lot of people that are pushing the idea of waking up at 5 in the morning because it just gets you a jump start of your day. And I argue, no, it doesn't. Waking up at 5 in the morning isn't any different as waking up at 11 in the morning. The question is, what do you do with the days you have? Because the one thing we can agree on is we need 8 hours of sleep. It doesn't matter if you're waking up at 5 in the morning, you got to go to sleep a lot earlier. The question is, how motivated are you when you wake up? And that's why motivation lies in a sense of this. I get up when I get up. To no alarm clock usually hovers between 8 and 10 sometime. But the question is, am I motivated to do things when I get up? So I know the types of things I want to get done. I wake up in the morning, and really the first thing I do is I read for about somewhere between half an hour and an hour in the Bible. I do that every morning, spend some time in the Bible, spend some time in praying. And then I get just a little bit of light exercise, then I'll make my coffee and then go write something else for a little bit. See, the thing is that I'm highly motivated. It doesn't matter if I wake up at 5 a.m., which chances are, all I'm going to do is wake up at 5 a.m., roll over, go, oh, and then fall back asleep until 10 anyway. Until I'm used to waking up at 5 a.m., in which case I'm losing the last half of my day, but I happen to find out that I'm very productive later in the day, let alone not as much productive earlier in the day. So I wake up when I wake up, and I'm just highly motivated to get things done. Motivation itself is an emotional competency. Now they talk about the social competencies. Empathy, how well can you empathize and relate to other people, particularly in bad situations? And then, of course, your social skills. How well do you have social skills? So they finally conclude with the best, what it takes, talking about, we all have, there's several different types of emotional competencies and emotional intelligence. And the question is, how well do we navigate each of these different competencies? And that's kind of as important to recognize. And so with that being said, that is kind of the introduction to this. The next chapter actually talks about, basically it's making a case for social skills and things like that. So that's the next chapter. So we're going to wrap this one up here. Overall, Great chapter. It is very much like I mentioned before. It's a book written for business executives to pretend they're going to motivate their teams into high levels of achievement. I don't put a lot more stock into it than that, but I can find all of the great nuggets out of it, because there are a lot of great nuggets in this, and I encourage you to pick up this book. And I still stand by, just so far what I read, I still like the original book, Emotional Intelligence, better. There's the links to both of these in the description down below. If you do want to help support the channel, picking up the copy of this book using my Amazon affiliate link in the description is a great way to do that. And you can check out the support page in the links in the description down below for all of the other ways. So thanks for coming along on this outdoor philosophy, and I hope you enjoy your daily walk in our Lord.